All right, and welcome to Open Line Online. I'm Bob Slade, joined as always by Judge Bob Pickett. It's
Yes,
Sunday, the 7th of May, 2017. Glad you could join us. As always, we always like you to participate as well in our panel discussion. And it's going to be hot in here. Yes, it will, because a couple of folks are on fire. And also going to meet a very young filmmaker. When I say young, I mean really young, toward the finish line of Open Line. He is already here now, and he looks like he's ready to direct us on how to do things. I like the way that goes.
7 years old.
7 years old. All of 7 years old. We'll get to meet this young man in scant seconds. But first, we got the panel. We got the Sports Brothers here. The History Brothers will be here with Sans Larry Ham of People's Organization for Progress. He got caught, guess where? In traffic because of the bicycle tour. The bike tour is going on right now, and it's messing everybody up about 30,000 people are participating in this crazy race?
Major. But it's not just the fact that which I'm all for healthy activities, right? I'm good with that. But so many of them put their bicycles on their car to drive here, which means they took up parking spaces.
Yeah, there was no parking.
And by the way they park, because they got the bike racks on the back, they don't back all the way up. No. So they take up a space and a half, which cuts it down more.
But, Bobby, they're trying to save their riding energy for the race itself.
You should still know how to park.
You should know how to park, exactly.
Just trying to reduce the carbon footprint.
Yeah, then don't
with trucks.
Ride your bike here.
Ride your bike here. Driving your bike with a truck.
Yeah, by the way, Keely Buchanan is a noted filmmaker, historian. We get to part of the History Brothers. Emmy Award-winning, I get that right, Pickett. Emmy Award-winning documentarian for ABC News. And they
actually, that was for PBS.
PBS, okay.
Get him, Bob.
Public television.
Pickett, get him.
I know he's quiet.
I did work for ABC.
Yeah, he did work for ABC News. He did. Yeah, back in the day. Come on. And, of course, not wearing his cowboy boots this week. That's cool. We have the Sports Brothers here as well. The Open Line correspondent, the sports correspondent Bobby Childs, and Jamie Harris. The Amsterdam News. What was the front page of the Amsterdam News this week? What are they talking about?
Well, we have the stories of the National Action Network, as well as the police shooting that you talked about in Dallas, in the Dallas area.
And we'll be getting to that and the bottom line story. And we also have referee sister, the one and only Miss Nitha Khan.
Good morning.
Writer extraordinaire. She writes for just about everybody. And she'll be writing, well, she's not going to write for 45, though. She said, I don't care how much money they give me.
She'll write about 45.
She'll write about him.
I've done that plenty of times, yes.
And let's, for the frequent and weekly viewers, there is a new moniker now. It's no longer the referee sister.
Yes.
Despite my shirt, I'm not referee sister.
It is the Take-No-Ish.
Yes.
We won't say the word. That's the edited version. The
Take-No-Ish
sister.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
and if you got to know her, that name is very
appropriate. It's fitting.
Very appropriate.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Oh, you should.
Thank you. Thank you.
I call her Bullet because she drives like Steve McQueen.
Oh, God.
Whoa, slow down, sister, slow down.
She's gotten several citations along the way.
Hey, why we gotta,
that's why her attorney right there. But try not to violate attorney.
Attorney privilege. Exactly. He's already violated it.
I think you're in breach of our contract.
Take your law license. Take that law license away from him.
Disbarred.
There's not a measure of health.
I have to protect him, too, from criminal activity.
That's what I said. There's not a measure of health or health care in the House Republican health care measure that passed by one vote.
217.
Vote.
That was
they needed 216.
216.
And they got one vote over to make it 217.
217 to 213.
Yep, and that was the final count, 217 to 213. No Democrats voted for it. The Republicans were celebrating like crazy. They thought it was great. The Democrats were cheering and basically singing, "Na na na, hey hey, kiss 'em goodbye" by Steam. 1969 is one of our oldies callers. Michael from the Bronx had mentioned earlier. We're going to get your thoughts on this as well. Tweet us and let us know what's going on. What do you think about what took place this week and the celebration? Were they spiking the ball too early without scoring a touchdown? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, Bob, I call it in a sports vernacular they did a celebration because they got a first down. They still got more than half the field to go before they can even consider a touchdown. So it was just a very, very ridiculous picture, I thought, just watching them jump on buses to go stand at a podium and take this celebration dance because they got a first down.
Well,
But
as Brother
that's the
Achilles
point.
said, as we talked about, as we always communicate and text each other and
During the
email all week, as Brother Achilles said, and I'll let you, continue to elaborate on it, brother, it's pure spectacle.
It's pure spectacle, and that's the most important thing that we have to understand. We live in a political world now where the visual image is more important than reality, and
Right.
they wanted you to think that Trump et al. Were doing what they promised they were going to do, but it was all about spectacle, when in fact the bill now has to go to the Senate. It has to be approved by the Senate, and we know that the Senate, including Republicans in the Senate, are very, very leery and skeptical of this bill as written, and they will either change it, send it back. But what is important, what you saw all week, was the image, was the celebration. And it's all smoke and mirrors. We live in an age now where what Orwell, what Patty Chayefsky and Network said, it's all about the image.
Perception.
It's
Yep.
perception.
What I find amazing is that the quote unquote moderate Republicans first objected to the initial one that they were attempting to roll out, but then went along with this, which is actually more conservative than that
Much more
original one, which
draconian.
is insane.
Why?
So
Because
the
they
Freedom
wanted-
Caucus.
Yeah,
Brother,
they wanted
you
to
can never
exactly.
make an inconspicuous presence, brother. Your
Never, never.
presence is too
Never
large,
can-
brother. You too large of a presence.
And he's clean.
And he's clean. And let me say this about the imagery, and this is, certainly, I don't think it's no accident, and it is it's representative and a reflection of this country and this administration, this regime. When you looked at that image, it was all white men. Very, there was
Very
no
few
people of
white
color.
women,
There was
And
like
very
women.
few,
And-
no
and
people of color.
Not a dot in the place.
No women. Very few women. There was just these tertiary, these.
They were just
I guess these are
dotted.
dots of women. And what's really unfortunate is when you look at the bill, more so than any other demographic, this might
women.
affect and impact women more negatively than any other demographic.
Absolutely.
Clearly, this bill, if put into law, will affect more Trump supporters than they will people on the West or East Coasts.
That's right.
Let's be clear.
Down south.
He lied to you. Trump is not interested at all in the interests of working people, of poor people, particularly people of color. And he is bamboozling you. If this passes, it'll be one of the most draconian setbacks
Yep.
for working people
It's
in the
a
United
perfect
States.
example of getting people to vote against their own interests.
Yeah. One of the things about this bill, right? And Akila, you said it wouldn't impact some folks on the coast. Actually, it has the potential to impact everyone. For this part right now. Right now, many people the vast majority of people, if they're employed by a company, get their benefits from that company.
Right.
And they don't think this could impact them. Well, it can impact them. One of the clauses that were in there is around the pre-existing conditions. Today, in the Affordable Care Act, the federal government dictates, or they actually set what the standards are around pre-existing conditions. By allowing the states to do that, the states now can opt out and get a
Yes.
waiver from what the
Yes.
Fed
Yes.
says, right? Now, if you're an employer in that state, that company, your company you work for in that state can say, oh, I'm going to go follow what the state says, which then in your employer plan,
Right.
you can get your premiums higher as well. So it bleeds into everything.
I didn't mean to
That's
imply
going on.
that it's not going to affect people on the East and West Coast.
It's going to hit
Which way?
everybody.
It's going to hit everybody,
Right.
but particularly people who are unemployed, pre-existing conditions, uninsurable in any other context, and even and I like to also add before we get further. Anywhere in the industrialized world, there is not a single market-based insurance plan, health insurance plan that works. Nowhere in the world, Canada, England, New Zealand, Australia, they are all government orchestrated and organized and structured. There is not a single successful.
You mean like Australia, which has a great.
There's not a single,
No,
but
right.
there's not a
Right.
single market-based
It's
health
market-based. When it's universal,
that works.
when it's universal like
Or single
Australia
payer.
or
Single
Canada or the UK, which Trump this week when he invaded New York and disrupted traffic.
You got caught in that, too.
Yes, I did. He spent some time. It seemed like I get caught in traffic all week, but he spent some time with the head of Australia.
Didn't know his name.
Didn't know his
Didn't
name.
even know his name, ladies and
Didn't know his
gentlemen.
name.
From Australia, the great
And then
president.
turns to him and says,
They
"You
have
have
a
great
Yes.
healthcare."
Right.
Yes.
Which Bernie
and Bernie Sanders
loved
ate it up and ran with
It's
it.
universal.
Yep.
Yes.
So the thing that gets me about this is so many of the lawmakers and Trump themselves did not even read what's in the bill.
They haven't
No,
read
They
it.
don't read it.
they
haven't
even
read it.
admitted that they didn't.
They didn't,
read it.
right? Now,
Yeah.
now, Judge, you talk about your time in the White House, and apparently it's customary for them to rely on their staff
Right.
to read things. But I would think that something this important, they spent a little bit more time
Right.
reading.
No doubt about
So-
it. It was incumbent on these congressional folks to have read that law very carefully and to assess it. More importantly, they should have received the congressional assessment of the impact of that. And they
Congressional
didn't-
Budget
Yeah,
Office.
Right.
And
Right.
So-
Budget-
so-
budget
And let's set
office
aside.
didn't see it.
Let's set
No.
aside. And let's set
No.
aside.
No,
but
let's
that's
set
my
aside
point,
it
though.
and read it.
That's my point, Slade.
There were no hearings. I mean, there were no hearings. And this is if this bill, and if we know healthcare is between 1/6 and 1/7 of this nation's economy, we know this is not a healthcare bill. This is a tax bill, and it is just the foundation of larger tax cuts. But they have to try
For
to
the
put
rich.
something in place
Let's-
first
let's-
for the
For
wealthy.
the rich.
And let's forget about health for a minute. This is a morality issue. If you're going to, and every study has shown this is potentially going to remove 24 million people. 24 million people
Or more.
from the ACA. So 24 million people no longer have health care. We're talking about the elderly. We're talking about children. This
And
is
the
a
poor.
and the poor. This is a morality issue,
Yep.
and this is something that no matter what side of the fence you sit on politically, no matter what your ideology is, morally, this is reprehensible.
So
By the
let's
way,
let's hear from our some
yeah.
of our viewers because they're chiming in. So Hassana Ali is saying they're letting you know that they white men are in power and the women don't have any real power. Edward Latson, one of our regular viewers, says those congressmen acted like Maury told them that they weren't the father. So keep sending us your thoughts. We'll read some more
But
as
just
they come
that
in.
point about that imagery, right? There was a producer, I forget which outlet she was at. After images of Trump standing in the Rose Garden with all the politicians behind him, she actually went and photoshopped one of the politicians' faces on everybody else behind the crowd, and she tweeted it out. So it's Trump with white guys behind, but they all had the same face, and it's a great one. So if you go and you just Google and you look at Photoshop Rose Garden or something like that, you'll see it. And what it went viral because at first glance, because they all looked the same, no one realized they all had the same face in the background.
Right.
Because when you see those imagery, like you said, Jay, there's no women, there's no people of color. They all wear the same suits, the same ties. They may have their hair going in a different part, but they look exactly the same.
And they all have the same worldview and interests. Jamie, I think you made a very, very key point that our viewers need to understand. Our elected officials, our president, our governors, when they write documents that are to be passed as laws, all of those documents are moral documents. They're not just political documents. And we have to look at them as moral documents. And what do they say about who we are?
But,
Yeah, by the
but
way,
at
that
the same,
gentleman with the tie, who slipped right on in there, is the one and only Larry Ham, the People's Organization for Progress, and you guys have to be at your wits' end as to the events of this week, and we'll get into a lot of it, especially in the bottom line. But on this healthcare situation, you're talking about people with pre-existing conditions. You're talking about 30% of the country. They said 27%. It's about 30% of the country. And we all got something wrong with us.
Right.
Come on. Whether it's diabetes or whatever.
right.
And, what's the organization saying?
Well, our position is, first and foremost, like James Brown said, the big payback. Come November, everybody that's mad about what's been done got to go to the polls. I mean, we can wring our hands, we can criticize, we can launch scathing verbal attacks on the Republicans, but in the final analysis, unless we hit back at the ballot box, we will fall short. So in Jersey, we have a gubernatorial election coming up. We have a primary coming up in June, and the last day for voter registration in Jersey for the June primary is this week. So people got a couple of days to get registered, vote in the primary, but the big election is in November for governor. We cannot have another Chris Christie in office in New Jersey. And people need to make that connection that every state is part of the power equation, that there's a direct relationship between who is governor of New Jersey and the person that's in the White House now. If it's one of his team members, like a sports analogy, if it's one of his team members in the governor's office in November, that helps his team. If it's one of our team members, it helps our team. So the gubernatorial election this year and the congressional election next year. But I want to say a personal thing. This wasn't about health care. This wasn't about program. This wasn't about insurance. This wasn't about policy. This was about power. This was a power move. That's why they didn't read the bill, because it really wasn't about knowing what was in the bill. This was about a political failure that they had. They couldn't get themselves together. They couldn't marshal the votes the first time. This was about marshaling the votes. And people should not be too sanguine about whatever the Congress is going to do, because, whatever the Senate is going to do. It's the same team. Republicans control the House. Republicans control the Senate. Don't think that the Senate is going to do that. They may tweak it here and tweak it there, but they're not going to do that much more. And we're heading for a political crisis. We're heading for a major political crisis because they're doing what they're doing because they know they have majority-proof districts. There were 20 Republicans that peeled off and voted with the Democrats. Why did they peel off? They peeled off because they're in purple districts. Right. They're not in clearly Republican districts. They won this time. They peeled off because they know they're going to catch hell behind this bill, and they voted with the Democrats. But there were 217 that stood solid. And this was about a power move. And the sooner we come to this understanding that, yes, morality does play a role. We have to be right. We have to be just. We have to be righteous. But this is about power. And just as they have marshaled their power to realize their political will, we have to marshal our power to fight back and to bring into being a situation that is more fair for our constituency.
And, I just want to make a point. Now, it's interesting you mentioned Christie. Now, Trump appointed him and placed him in a position to be one of the voices and faces to fight the horrific opioid addiction crisis in this country. Yet they're gutting the agencies and the programs that are in place to address, opioid and other, drug addiction and health problems. So it is just, again, the hypocrisy. It is just mind-boggling.
But again, like you said, like we all said, it's about perception and not reality. Yeah. It's all about the propaganda.
Optics.
Yeah, optics. Spectacle.
Yeah.
As I said over and over again, it's about spectacle.
You got more comments?
Yeah, we have a lot. Actually, I was just trying to get some of the older ones. For some reason, they're disappearing from my computer here. So Ronald Craig says, too late now. I told our people to get out and vote, and a lot of them didn't. So now we're paying for it. And then another comment: if you can buy beer and cigarettes, you can get your out to vote.
That's right.
It's very true. Anthony Rodriguez says, and this administration will not be able to get it together ever. It's sad and it's a shame.
Yeah. Some of the congressional representatives are feeling the heat when they hold town halls.
But not many of them are holding them. That's it.
I know, but
because they don't want to face those.
But those who are holding it, Slade. Man, they're getting a lot of heat.
But they were feeling the heat before the vote. They before the vote, their constituents told them, we don't want this bill. We do not want you to repeal. Just make some changes. We know Obamacare, the ACA, there's flaws. Well, just keep what's working, and then you work on correcting what's not. But this is all about, I'm sorry, Bobby, but this is all about a repudiation of Obama and trying to destroy his legacy. Nothing more.
Right. And that's what Larry's talking about, right? It's a power play, right? So, to me, a lot of them made it personal because of their failure the previous 8 years. There was something that the Obama put in place. They had some strong feelings against him and what he stood for. And this now brings that big eraser that they're trying to do, which is why they keep leading with repeal and replace. The comedian who I just think is brilliant, Trevor Noah, he gave an analogy recently that I just think it was great. And he said, here's what politicians in the United States suffer from. They can't manage nuance. It's either this or that. So it's like it's the equivalent of you have a brand new house, but there's a leak in it. Instead of saying, I appreciate this part of the house, let me fix the leak, they want to destroy the whole house and build it all over again. Exactly. And that's what this repeal and replace is.
They made it a binary choice, Bob.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the thing about the Affordable Care Act, which I think it definitely raised the collective awareness in the United States about the health of people. So now when you have people who are Trump supporters who are actually saying, no, you got to take care of my pre-existing condition. There are components of it I want to keep. And then you had Trump actually give direction. No, we need to keep pre-existing conditions. And then Paul Ryan had to do a reversal and says, yes, they're in there, but they tried some trickery to get around it. People are much more aware now about what is in their best interest. And they're going to continue to put pressure at these town halls to say, if it's not in there, which is very clear for me to understand, I want to see it. And they're going to put the pressure on them.
Of course, because Gallup actually had a poll last year that a majority of Americans are actually for single payer.
Right.
They are not for this. Yeah. And let's be very clear about this repeal and replace. This is something that Republicans campaigned on for years. This is what the midterms in 2010 were about. And this is also about tarnishing Obama's legacy. It's also changing what he did and reversing all the progress that he did.
But it's also, you have to look at the huge historical arc. Yes, it's a repudiation of Obama. It's also a repudiation of the New Deal. It's a repudiation of two worldviews. The New Deal, right, which pushed social programs, Social Security. It's a repudiation of the Great Society, pushed by Johnson and it's a continuation. This is this is a continuation of the Reagan counter-revolution. That started started with Goldwater in '64, Reagan counter-revolution to now. We are in a war of ideas about what kind of world, what kind of nation we believe in and we want to live in. And it's fundamental. It's not going to change until we win the hearts and minds of the majority of American people.
And by the way, as quiet as it's kept, go back to Richard Nixon in 1974, who tried to push for health care legislation back then.
Right.
And he was running into a problem with the Democrats.
Right.
I want to dovetail on the excellent statement that Akili just made, because it brings to light the dimensions of this, which involve both race and class.
Yes.
On one hand, there's a racial aspect. It is the repudiation of Obama.
Yes.
But on the other hand, there's the economic class aspect, which is a war against the poor, the working class, and the middle class in
what
America.
They're trying to do is racialize all social programs.
Right.
And even to the point where white folks are mad confused about, well, sure, no, it affects you too.
Right.
But what they put a racial element or a racial picture on it and saying, these are the people who are ripping you off. This is why you're not making it. These black people, these brown folks out here, that's why it's not happening for you.
And they want to restructure the entire country.
Absolutely.
The Koch brothers are funding an effort to the tens of millions of dollars to help the Republican Party seize a supermajority of state legislatures. Because if they can get a supermajority which is 34 state legislatures. They have 32 now. They can call a constitutional convention, and they can literally rewrite the Constitution of the United States of America. That's what this is all
about.
going.
That's an
toward.
important fact, Larry.
And what they've also done, and we talked about this last week, is by seizing control, they've been able to gerrymander and redistrict.
That's
which
right.
is why and I tell people this is why they've gained such a stronghold on the House and the Senate.
That's
because
right.
of grabbing control of the states, the state legislatures. And you know what? This is interesting. This is about racial hatred, as you pointed out, because you have so many people who would say, we rather have nothing if that means that black and brown people would have nothing, as opposed to saying, let's
right.
all of us have something. They still have that same mindset. And that is just this innate and very deep-seated hate and racism that still permeates this country.
And there were recent polls taken, I think week before last, that show that at this point, with all the reversals that Trump has done on all his campaign promises, that only 2%
they're still with
of
him.
his voters have any buyer's remorse about their voting for him. So there's this we have to understand, there's this solid block of people that are going to stay with Trump no matter what happens.
He could shoot somebody on Fifth Ave.
Right, and this is a worn out analogy, but I have to bring up Nazi Germany again. There's a parallel here. There was a solid block of Germans that were with Hitler to the end, even if it meant going down with him. And they went down with him. And he's gone, but you go to Germany now, there's still elements of Nazism. So there's this block of people that are with him and that are going to stay with him. And as Jamie said, they're proposing this preposterous legislation because they are in electorally safe districts.
Yes.
Right.
They have used the state legislatures to draw these district lines so that no matter what they do, they're going to get elected. So we have to fight. We have to, and the other part of this is the other side story on this is that this was about overcoming the contradictions within the Republican Party. You know, many people don't know that there's actually a party position called the whip. They have it in state legislatures and they have it in Congress. There's a party whip. There's a person whose job it is to whip everybody. That's
in
what,
line.
Whip people into shape,
to whip
into
people
line.
Right. And there were contradictions with the Freedom Caucus and other caucuses, and this was about overcoming those contradictions so that they could have a solid block. Because look at it, the vote, they only won. It was 213 to 217. This super victory they had was only made possible by 4 votes.
Yeah,
And let me just
understand. 216. They had the bill had to pass the 216 mark.
Right.
And that was by 1 vote, just one.
Right.
And that's how they did it. But it's a mad crooked. It's just
crazy.
Makes no sense.
Point out, this began in 2010 with a very sophisticated computer algorithm.
Right.
They used the algorithm to look at every state. It was a 50-state strategy to see where they can grab hold of these districts and institute gerrymandering. So, and the Koch brothers are the ones whose money fueled this. This was a very strategic. After Obama won.
Let me just raise this issue because, Larry, I think that's a critical point that a lot of people are overlooking. That potentially, given the majority, they could change the Constitution.
They can change.
Yes.
That is the goal.
That is absolutely the goal. That is absolutely the goal.
Scary.
Yes, it's scary.
It is very scary.
Now, and what did they do with Gorsuch? They made sure they got
him in place.
Got him in place. If anyone who's left or centrist on the Supreme Court passes, he will make sure he gets another solidly conservative jurist on the Supreme Court.
Let me raise this question with Larry. How come the Democratic Party, both locally, statewide, and nationally, how come they didn't see this?
I'd like to respond to that too.
I don't know they didn't see it or did see it. The Democratic Party, unlike the Republican Party, is a more heterogeneous party. The Republican Party is more homogeneous. It's overwhelmingly white. It's overwhelmingly middle class, and on and on and on. The Democrats are like 3 and 4 parties in one, and there's a struggle. There are 2 major tendencies in the Democratic Party right now.
That's right.
And they're struggling it out. And this was exemplified during the election of 2016 with Hillary Clinton on the corporatist side of the Democratic Party and Bernie Sanders on
Social
a popular,
Democratic side.
on a, well, I wish it was social democrat. Let's just
Well,
say
he is.
populist. Let's just say populist side of the Democratic Party. And these 2 forces are struggling it out. The corporatist side, you know, is neoliberalism. It doesn't want to really fight as hard to make these changes. And they also cater to the same rich people that the Republican Party.
Wall Street,
you know,
Goldman Sachs,
right, you know.
pharmaceutical companies that give them monies.
Goldman Sachs comes up a winner no matter who's in the White House. You know, if the Democrats are in, they got Goldman Sachs people. If the Republicans are in, they got Goldman Sachs people. So right now, the Democratic Party is struggling it out. The Bernie Sanders people are struggling, and it's going to be a fight. And
Major.
It's a fight that happens. See, there are 2 fights going on. There's a fight within the Democratic Party, and then there's a fight between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. These fights are being carried out simultaneously. And the only way to resolve it really is over the long term and through the primary process. The primary elections are about the fights within the party. But I say this, when the primaries are over, we got to unite and have a united front. Trump has to go.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people, they want to complain about the policies coming out of Democrats. I was a Bernie Sanders delegate. I'm as dissatisfied as anybody else. But when the primary is over, we have to unite. We have to get Trump out, and we got to turn the Congress, turn part of it in 18 and turn the other part in 20.
Oh, I got some more comments from the listeners. We got to go to these comments very quickly. Ms. Little, what do you got?
Okay, so comment here. Person, black or African Americans means dead in the law, property of another man. And a lot of comments here saying we're having a great show. People are going to be primaried out. So keep sending them in. We'll read them as they come along.
All right. By the way,
I want to, real quick, Slade, I want to make this point too. I think it's important that we put this, and I always say this, but in the global context.
Right.
So this dynamic that we see here with Trump, with nationalism, with the rise of xenophobia, nativism, all of that, it's important to remember that the elections in France are today where you're seeing that same exact thing with Le Pen playing out, and it'll be really.
Did I hear something about hacking in France?
Exactly.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Right.
Was that fake news?
Right. That
Or
he was hacked last minute, and and in France they have the law where they basically
You can't
talk. There's a media blackout or whatever
some hours before
the election, so they can't even discuss this. Right. 48 hours. Right. So they
But
can't even talk about
in
the
the
hacking.
minds. It's already it's been planted in the minds and hearts and
Right.
vision of the
Right.
French people before they go to the polls.
Exactly. And it's not only France. You're seeing this in Germany. You saw it with Brexit. And it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out around the world, if we're going to see the same continuation of that nativism, of the quote-unquote populism, the xenophobia, and the saying no to other people, if that trumps globalism.
And although Macron is leading in the polls by a pretty
20%.
wide margin, we've heard that before.
Yeah.
we heard that.
Yeah,
in
let's
November.
not jinx him. We don't know, guys. Let's not jinx the
and
vote.
Obama endorsed or came out and endorsed.
That
Macron.
I think that's
And
key.
that-
I think
Right.
the fact that Barack Obama spoke openly endorsing a foreign candidate speaks a lot about the fears and dangers that a lot of us have about what is happening globally.
Well, the
I
way
think you're
he
absolutely
mirrors
right.
Obama. He's 37. He's young. He's a centrist. So his movement and his campaign
He
in
tried
many
to
ways
sell
mirrors
himself as
absolutely
as the
Yeah.
French Obama.
as a French Obama.
So, a couple of things, right? So I believe I read a report quickly that his campaign actually intentionally put some false information out there that was hacked that WikiLeaks was trying to do, so it actually discredits WikiLeaks a little bit there. So if you anticipate you're going to be hacked, give them something to go out there and you prove that they pulled the wrong stuff. And Larry, you made the comment about the destruction or the erosion of the Constitution. Well, go back a couple of weeks ago when Trump actually made the comment how hard this job was, and that the Constitution he basically said the Constitution gets in the way.
Yeah.
And so this is just another example of how, he rode in by talking about we got to keep the Constitution, keep America great. But everything they're trying to do is to rewrite the Constitution.
It's extra constitutional.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like James Brown said, like a dull knife, just ain't cutting. Just talking loud and saying nothing. Very quickly, before we go to the bottom line. First female chief usher in the White House and second African-American to hold that job.
Was fired.
Fired.
Ushered
Angela
out.
Reed
Yeah,
is her
ushered out.
name. She was fired, Thursday or Friday, by the Trump administration. And he went all about introducing her to David Muir and ABC News and all this other nonsense. And come out here and say hello. And she had the job for 5 years. They fired her ass. They don't say why they fired her, but she's gone. African-American, another one gone.
Well, the scuttlebutt is that she was very close to the Obama family, right?
Spare me.
And she's a dignified woman, very bright, knew her job
Oh, she was a
inside.
holdover.
Right.
Yes, she's there for 5 years.
Yes.
And as Achille
Well,
knows,
that's why they fired.
and as Achille knows,
Oh.
well entrenched in journalism, a Friday news dump. So
Yes,
they thought it would just
exactly.
kind of, go unnoticed and unreported.
Right.
And by the way, Barack Obama is going to receive the Profiles in Courage Award
Tonight.
from the
Yes.
Kennedy Foundation later on this evening, around 8 o'clock or so. Meanwhile, there are members of Congress like Jason Chaffetz, who's on his way out of Utah. They want to take his pension away, $400,000 pension, if he makes too much money outside. That's nuts.
But then,
Well,
then they have to apply that retroactively to Bill Clinton.
Well, here's the story about that, right? Which is, so Chavitz's argument is that last year when he put this forward, Obama was not supportive of it. And the reason Obama wasn't supportive of it is the reason you gave, is he said this would penalize retroactively other presidents who are still living, right? So now, fast forward, Obama gets to $400,000 for his speaking engagements, and Chavez says, "Ha-ha! The reason why you didn't want to support it is because you knew a year later, more than a year later, you're gonna get $400,000, which is a ridiculous statement. Ridiculous statement."
Stupid.
So Obama was looking about retroactive because nothing in the bill that Chavez said would be a moving forward position. So it would retroactively impact everyone out there. And I just think Chavez, because he's stepping down, should just do his job. He still has refused. He still has refused to do the investigations on the ethics, and whether it's Kushner, whether it's there's so many examples of things that he could be.
Or Bobby,
spending
how
his
about
time
proposing
on.
a bill that would take away their lifetime health insurance?
Right, but he's going after Obama, which in essence, if he passed this bill, would hit every previous living president.
It's distraction again. It's distraction. It's more distraction.
But speaking of them, right? So Kushner, his sister, because they still have their business. She was hosting an event with Chinese investors, and one of the things is her pitch basically was, if you invest $500,000, half a billion dollars, we can actually get you a special kind of visa that allows you to come in and out of the country. So it sounds like you're trading favors out there. And as reporters were in the event, they were asked to leave before it began. And the answer they were given was, "We don't want that kind of news." Well, they already got caught out there. So she made
They wanted alternative news.
Right. So they have a property here in New York on 5th Avenue, 666 5th Avenue, that was a bad deal from when he first did it, and it's just hemorrhaging. So they're trying to get investors, again, Chinese investors, to beef it up in return for what anybody else would say is a favor to get a special visa, right on the heels of Trump talking about he signed an executive order to look at the H-1 visas that are in the country. So the contradictions are just fast and furious.
These people make the Harding administration look like the Keystone Cops. I mean, if we get a majority Democrat House, we can begin to expose continual violations of the emollients clauses, among other things. But we have to vote, as Larry said, We've got to get out there and vote
People have
in
got to
order
get
to
mad.
put things
They
in
have got-
motion.
Well, Achille, you know this.
got to get mad.
What we've been seeing only confirms what you've been saying for months, Achille. And one of the first voices I commend you. This is a fascist regime. This is fascism. You know, and it clearly is when you're trying to, as Larry said, when you're trying to change or basically strip the Constitution.
By the way, I'm going to read a tweet from our good friend George Wallace, the comedian, who talks about what's going on. He says that 45 is a walking circus peanut. His approval ratings are lower than the people who like liver. He's the only graduate of Trump U, taking away insurance from poor people. Talking about Australia's insurance is better than ours. Well, let's use theirs. He has said nothing about blacks since he's been in office. And what do we have to lose? That's what he was saying. That's what Trump's saying. Not one real Negro in his cabinet. Carson. Well, that's it. I haven't seen him since
Omarosa.
the last time. Yeah, talk about that's coming up on this. Trump put him in charge of the HUD. Not the hood, the HUD. And Omarosa is like a maid. This is from comedian George Wallace.
Wow. But you know, you talk
Good
about
job.
black folks, right? He did
speaking
something.
on what he just said about one of the many things in the list there, you know, the black HBCU
Yes.
college presidents
Yes.
took that picture with Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
And then this week, Trump says giving federal money to the historically black colleges might be unconstitutional.
Right. So they're up
It's
in
just
arms
optics.
now.
Yeah.
All it is optics. That's all it is.
Yeah, optics matter, folks. Get out there. You got to do your thing. By the way, the bottom line, open line, bottom line. Here we go. Race in the Trump era, which just leads us right to it. We had several cases, but one in particular I do want to focus on is the one in Baton Rouge, Louisiana,
Yes.
where you had Alton Sterling
Yes.
laying on the ground
Yes.
with two very heavyweight police officers on top of him,
Yes.
struggling with him. And they claimed that this guy, Alton Sterling, 31 years of age, was reaching for their guns. And that's why the guy took out his gun and shot him there on the pavement for a non-dumbass crime. I don't even know what the crime was. But they say, Jeff Sessions' Justice Department says, there will be no federal charges filed against those two Baton Rouge police officers because there was not enough evidence to prove that Sterling wasn't going for their gun.
So what's crazy about that, right? Just the way you described that, right? Two people laying on top of someone, and let's say his hand was reaching for the gun. They were able to get their hands on their own guns.
Yeah.
That would have stopped him from grabbing their guns.
Right.
Why did they need to shoot him?
Hello.
Right.
Because he's black.
And
But
Black.
But Bob
It doesn't
Pickett,
matter what the crime was.
No.
The penalty, if you black,
if you're
the
black,
penalty is death.
especially under Jefferson
Jaywalking,
Beauregard
death.
Sessions.
Cigarettes, death.
That's it.
Riding your bicycle, death.
Yeah, oh my goodness. That's it.
Breathing,
Death.
death.
Right. And our director is waving his hands in the room saying, yeah, moving on. We will do that, young man.
But I just want to say real
Yeah, right.
quickly on this. If there was ever a political lesson, here it is. Donald Trump runs for president. The Ku Klux Klan endorses Donald Trump. The 338,000 member Fraternal Order of Police endorses Donald Trump. Donald Trump is elected. He appoints Jefferson Beauregard Sessions as the head of the Justice Department. The first thing Sessions says, the Justice Department is going to step back from monitoring local police
The
forces.
consent decrees,
We're going to
yep.
step back from consent decrees.
Right.
And then the very next thing is we're not going to prosecute the police that killed an unarmed black man.
Yeah. And
That's a straight line. And all these people have been walking around here talking about it doesn't make a difference who we vote for. Here it is.
Right.
Here it is.
Right.
Plain as nose
And
on your
if
face.
anybody challenges it, they're going to take it to the Supreme Court where they now have a 5-member majority to support whatever Sessions
whatever
does.
he does.
Right,
And
yeah.
what's amazing, Larry, with those consent decrees, I believe it was Baltimore, where the officials are actually in favor. So we're talking about the mayor and even people from the police department that want these changes in their own policing to go into effect. And he's stopping it. He's putting a stop to, I believe, 14
It is Baltimore.
consent decrees, 14 around the country.
Right,
It's just
ex-North Carolina,
outrageous.
by the way, ex-North Carolina, ex-North Charleston, South Carolina, a cop, Michael Slager, pled guilty last week to federal civil rights charges in the shooting death of Walter Scott. We've all seen the video. the plea to the shooting of Scott. He shot at him 8 times, hit him 5, avoids another state trial. So the first trial, by the way, ended in a mistrial, and under the federal count, Slager could get 20 years to life in prison. Bob Pickett, what's he going to get?
I think he's going to get a significant sentence. It's time for our judicial system to take note that Black lives matter, and I think that he's going to get a significant sentence. Given the uproar and given the protest, I think he will get a significant sentence.
But he's not going to be convicted of murder.
Right.
No.
Right. That was the plea.
That's the deal.
Yeah.
Because because the feds cannot convict on a murder charge. They convict. They
Civil
can
rights
convict
charge.
on
Violation of
civil
civil
rights
rights.
violations. They can convict on conspiracy. Murder is a state statute, and this is the problem all across the country. That the state prosecutors, that is, the county prosecutors in some states, the district prosecutors in other states, they will not charge these cops. They will not bring them in. They will not convene grand juries. And when they do, there's no transparency. And the end result is they walk away. They have killed, since you had Michael Brown's picture up here, since Michael Brown was killed, 2,500 black people have been killed by the police in the United States since the death of Michael Brown.
Well,
but no, you wouldn't know it.
Over 300 have been killed by police just this year alone.
Yes.
And I believe it's either 1/4 or 1/5 of them had some sort of mental illness. And the point is, like, this has completely disappeared off of cable news coverage because it's
Right.
just Trump 24/7. But this is going on every single day, and it's not making the headlines like it used to. And that's the scary
they
part.
just killed a 15-year-old kid,
Right.
Jordan Edwards in
Right.
Texas.
15 years
Shot him
old.
with a rifle.
It was a passenger in a car that the police officer, Roy Oliver, claimed, the white police officer claimed, was backing up to hit him when it turns out his body cam showed something totally different.
Yep.
And they wasn't doing that, and
we
they
could
fired
pop-
his ass once they found
Nith-
him.
We could pop his picture up.
Nither just
There he
talked
is.
about mental illness, right? Well, this police officer, Oliver, he now comes out and says that he's an
Post-traumatic
Iraq.
stress.
Yeah, he's from Iraq, an Iraq soldier. He's suffering from PTSD.
Yeah.
And so then you ask the question, why did you allow him to go back and resume his job? Right. So where's the recertification for people who are supposed to be protecting you in the community? And he's going to pull out a rifle and shoot from a distance at a vehicle moving away from him. Did he think he was back in Iraq?
Yes. And the deeper question is, why are we hiring soldiers just out of Iraq with PTSD as police
Right.
officers?
Well, I
Where
think
is
he
the
resumed his
testing?
job. I think he
Right.
resumed his job. I think he was an officer before he went away. Regardless of it is,
Right.
it's a good question. So viewers out there, what do you think about somebody who is policing who they don't go through these regular checks to see whether they're of sane mind and
Right.
body to be out there with weapons of destruction?
Do
Well, like
they
Nither
need,
pointed out,
or
too,
do
this is
they
the media.
need a period of decompression, psychiatric evaluation before they go back into civilian police work? This is, as far objectively speaking, this is a continuation of state-sponsored terrorism. Jamie and I agree that we are moving closer and closer to fascism, and this murder of wanton killing of black people and lives of color, as far as I'm concerned, state-sponsored terrorism objectively.
All right,
And
Bert.
and I just want to make this point. Nither made a great point, and we talk about this all the time. The media cannot take our eyes off of this. We all focus on Trump and the issues that, certainly that are directly related to Trump are important. It needs to be reported, but we certainly have to make sure we are continuing to report and investigate the other issues that are impacting the black and brown communities around this country,
By the way,
because it's
props,
dire.
props to New York Mayor Ras Baraka, who instituted body cams on the police officers. We here in New York just started the program about 2 weeks ago, so let's see what happens. We're getting up on.
But can I,
You got a
can,
couple
can I
comments,
interrupt you
Bob?
for a
You got a
second?
couple got a couple comments here.
Let me just interrupt Slade for a second. Much of the, I guess, applause here should be given to Larry and his organization because they pushed for
Yes.
the intervention of the federal government
Yes, sir.
and the ultimate appointment of my good friend Peter Harvey as the overseer of the police department. Am I right, Larry?
That's right. There were so many complaints about police brutality in Newark that we went to the ACLU, and the ACLU of New Jersey sent a letter requesting a federal investigation. The feds did come in, they did investigate. Our organization actually held hearings for the 6 federal investigators that had come in, and at the conclusion, they decided that the Newark Police Department should be put under a consent decree and should have a federal monitor to oversee the implementation of the consent decree. But again, I applaud Mayor Ross Baraka, who's been 100%, behind police reform. But we still have to understand, as Jamie was saying, that this is still an issue, that they haven't stopped killing black people. It's just out of the news.
Right.
And by the way,
real quick, Slade, let me just read a let me
just to
It's not my
piggyback
fault,
on what
people.
you said, I don't want people to say, well, all they do is talk about what the white people are doing. And we're going to talk about what we do to ourselves next week, so get ready for that. Go ahead.
Okay, so Robert Cooper says, okay, now it's gone. See, this is the problem we're having, is we can't read the older comments. I'm trying to get to them. So we have a couple other ones here. Body cams, get real. It's a photo shoot of how we're being shot. Please wake up, people. And then Lorenzo Smallwood says that these people who are coming back and officers need extensive deprogramming. And we had a couple of people who were agreeing with Bobby who said PTSD is just an excuse. It's actually outright killing people point blank. Right. And another comment here, why are we surprised by Sessions? Coretta told us about him 30 years ago.
Right.
Listeners, I'm just, and viewers, thank you very much. I'm giving my seat up for this phenomenal young
hang on a
filmmaker.
second before you split. Very quickly, we are constantly on race, and this was a week of race. In the sport of baseball, we had a situation involving Baltimore Orioles
Adam
Jones, who was had the N-word yelled at him and a bag of peanuts thrown at him
In Boston.
Yes. Fenway Park by a crazy fan. And apparently he went to that drama, went public with it, said, I'm not going there. A lot of people have basically backed him up about the city of Boston.
Except for Kurt Schilling, who came out and said the most ridiculous thing about, I doubt it, playing off this fake news. So Schilling's a former baseball player, white, got kicked
former
off
Red Sox pitcher.
Red Sox player. He got kicked off of ESPN for these outlandish
political comments.
He writes for Breitbart right now, and he said, I don't believe it happened because nobody around came forward to corroborate the story. CC Sabathia on the Yankees, he came out and says there's 66 black players in the Major League Baseball. We all know when you go to Boston, this is what happens.
Mm-hmm. And let me just say
this.
the
players on their team, the players on Boston, the black players on Boston, Mookie Betts being one of them, they went to ownership and said, this happens all the time to us, and we play for the team.
Wow.
Boston was the last Major League Baseball franchise to integrate, as Bob knows, 1959, Pumpsie Green. Absolutely. And the very next night, a father brought his young son to the baseball game, to the Red Sox game, and racial epithets were being lobbied, and he made the security aware. Boston Red Sox, they banned him, and I think he's receiving a lifetime ban from Fenway Park. Lifetime ban. Yes. So the Red Sox, right now, they are keeping their word, and they said they're going to aggressively address this. I'm going to let this young man sit down because I'm excited to hear from him.
What we're going to do is we'll take right there. We're going to do is take a break. Whoop! Stop right there.
We're going to take a break.
We're going to show his video, as a matter of fact.
Right. We're going to show a very interesting video developed by this young man, Orion Razat, and he's just an absolutely brilliant young man, age 7.
Prodigy.
And a prodigy, yes, no doubt about it. So let's RB, let's do video number 1, and that'll give everybody a chance to set up. Video number 1, the producer-director, Mr. Orion Razat.
Rob the Vegetarian Shack. One day when I was eating dinner with Yob and Bob and my parents, Yob and Bob called me Veggie Face.
Boom, boom, boom.
I was sad.
It's okay to be different.
I just want them to be healthy. Now go brush your teeth, Rob. The next morning, my mom took me to the doctor.
You look like a healthy shark. What do you eat? Salmon? Tuna? Grouper?
Kelp, and I also like corn on the cob. He likes corn on the cob. He likes corn on the cob. Yeah. Yob, Bob, and Rob, the best friendships. Hi, my name is Yob. My mom thinks I'm a slob because I haven't got a job. Hey, have you seen Bob? Hi, my name is Bob. I will not hire Yob because he is a slob and he hasn't got a job. Hey, have you seen Rob? Hi, my name is Rob. My brother's name is Yob, and yup, I got a job. I work for Bob putting butter on the cob. Hey, have you seen Yob? Yup, I seen Yob. There he is.
Gentlemen, there you have it. A child prodigy and just a wonderful young man. Let's give him applause. Orion Razat. Am I saying that
People are
correctly?
already commenting. Awesome job on this cartoon. I love it.
Yeah.
Wait, already?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
already.
Already?
Already.
That's it. Hold that mic
Orion.
to your face there, young.
Orion, tell us a
Orion.
little bit about yourself and what got you interested in producing and directing your own videos. Talking to Mike.
Well, basically, it was like I have like a responsibility to be talented and stuff. Well, let's just say if I wasn't talented, I would have been broke right now, right? Get that? Well,
Mom,
it makes sense that I made videos to show my personality.
very good.
Orion, do you know a man named W.E.B. Du Bois? Have you ever heard of him? Well, you know,
not really.
he's a very, very famous and important black political figure and thinker in African American history. And he said that people like you, he called them the 10%, did have a responsibility. So I'm amazed that you would think that. I'm so proud of you.
Let's speak to Mom.
Bernie
Amani,
Sanders
you
can
have
do
a
something like this.
interesting. Mom, you have just a
He's making
wonderful
historical connection.
Yeah. You have a wonderful, wonderful son. How did this happen?
You know, Orion was born special. My mother-in-law jokes and says, "You know, you've never had a baby. You've given birth to an old man." And you know, he's always been creative. He's always been very ambitious. He's always been very meticulous in his creativity and directed. And you know, I'm his support staff. I've been saying that since he was 2 years old. And like, hey, I'm support staff. You know,
You're his production assistant.
right. I am his production assistant.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Well, young Orion, let me ask you a question. When did you start being interested in film? When did you start?
That's actually not.
Use the mic,
that's
Orion.
actually a hard
Use the mic.
question,
You can
pretty
just
much.
hold
It's a hard question?
Yeah, that's a hard question.
Why?
Yeah.
Why is it hard?
I'm not really sure how I can answer that. Like,
Okay. How when did you first begin interested in writing and illustrating? your
wow, my
books?
mother's asking me a question.
Well, I know.
I'm
that-
sure that happens a
I
lot.
saw you back in the room there, and you were directing us as you were saying, "Speed it up, speed it up, speed it up." And I said, "Yeah." You said, "I gotta go
I
someplace, so
was
speed it
impatient
up."
in that room. Yeah.
You were impatient
Yeah.
to,
Yeah,
get,
that's
to get in here?
That's all right.
That's
So
all.
let me
It's
ask
all
you,
good.
how long did it take you to do that?
That film.
To make your car
to
turn,
make
how
the-
how long does it take you?
It takes like a week or two, maybe.
Which really speaks about the work that goes into doing animation or making film. It could be 2 minutes long, but it takes you a long period of time. So that really speaks to focus and having a sense of
pretty
what
much,
story you
pretty
want,
much.
right?
Yeah.
How did
Yeah,
you
pretty
learn?
much. Yeah.
How did you learn to manipulate the technology, the computer, to do that?
Grown-up language again.
Oh,
Really.
like how did you learn how to do that? Like who taught you? Did anybody teach you? Did you teach yourself?
Well, What are they asking me?
Technology. How were you introduced to technology? You got an iPad.
Yeah, first I got an iPad, which wasn't really mine, actually. Also, AKA called an iPod. I got an iPad, and, well, I started texting my dad on it.
How old were you when you got the iPad?
3 or 4, maybe.
Wow.
You were 1.5.
Wow.
Yeah, he was 1.5.
Holy that.
And he was texting Dad
sharp,
at
actually.
2 years old. He started to communicate with his father at work. He started to utilize the emojis and figure out that he could communicate and tell stories, which is something that he does today.
It's like hieroglyphics.
Yeah, and then he learned to spell and read out of necessity. Like, look, I got to talk to my dad.
Yeah, it's simple.
And that evolved into storytelling and drawing. And I noticed that, and I provided him with the tools. The iPad, the pen, the paper, hardcover white books where he could draw his stories, and then introduced him to Photoshop and After Effects.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question, Orion. What's your favorite TV show? Do you watch television? Do you like to watch TV?
I have a lot of favorite TV shows.
What's your favorite one? What's the one you like to watch all the time? If you have
SpongeBob SquarePants.
SquarePants. All right. You like that, huh? You like that.
So, Monty, you recognized that he had potential talent early on.
Yes.
What would you recommend to parents out in our audience in terms of looking at their kids and trying to be supportive of their kids?
Right. I have an interesting story from actually a classmate's grandma. So she has a very athletic family, and she had this one granddaughter who just wanted to play with water in the sink. And the family was pushing her towards athletics, but the girl just wanted to play with water. She said, let the girl play with water. The girl is a chemist today.
Wow.
And so my advice to parents is, sure, our job is to introduce our children to a vast array of activities, to take them to museums, to show them film, but also to pay attention to what the child is interested in, and then to foster that. Right. You know, it's not necessarily about forcing your children to do what you want them to do. Right. If you want them to excel, they need to love it.
Find their passion.
Exactly. So that's my advice to parents, is kind of relax and also give the children some free time to play.
Yes.
I feel like we're often overscheduled at a younger and younger age. Let the children play.
And let them have an imagination.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, people are saying that the parents are doing a great job, so keep it up. That's what we're
a lot of folks are commenting on that. Say, what are they saying basically about?
They're saying that he's a child prodigy. And that, that the parents are doing a great job, very smart, and hope he keeps up the good work.
Right.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Why did you name him Orion?
Well,
constellations.
Yes. He's a star.
Both he and we. Okay, my parents came from the Black Power movement.
Yes.
So we grew up with Muslim names. I mean, Mani.
Her last name is Powell. Okay, it makes sense.
Mani Powell, makes sense. And my husband as well has a Muslim name. And we said, all right, we did that. So what's next? Let's give our child a name that's above this earth, that's out of this world.
Wow.
Let's go to the stars.
Wow.
And Orion is a very important name. It's one of the most important constellations globally in the sky. And the stars correspond with the 3 pyramids of Giza, and on.
The 3 stars in the belt.
Yes, absolutely. So we just wanted him to kind of be a future child and take us into the future past. He is
the only child I've ever met that's named Orion.
Really?
I've never met anyone else. And Orion is actually the Greek version of the original name of the constellation, which was Osiris.
Orion, let me ask you this question. Do you anticipate continuing your progress and your career as a filmmaker, as a videographer, and storyteller as you get older?
Do you want to do this when you grow up, is what he's saying?
maybe.
Maybe.
Good answer.
That's a
Good.
good answer. Very good answer.
What
By
does
the
that
way,
depend on, Orion? What does that depend on?
You said
You're continuing.
no. He's just making.
Oh no, he's just
laughing at
just
the guys in the other
I
room.
think Mr. Pickett wants to know, what other interests do you have?
What else do you like to do?
Really, man? At this time, really? Wow.
Okay.
We want to thank you for being with us, Orion. It's a pleasure meeting you. Let me shake your hand.
Yeah,
All right.
BBS. Amani, tell the audience where they can see other videos and films that young Orion has developed.
Sure. Orion, do you want to plug your YouTube channel?
Oh, you have a YouTube channel.
Oh my goodness.
My YouTube channel, well, it's called Rocket Ship Squid TM Productions. You can just leave the TM out, whatever. Oh well, but Rocket Ship Squid Productions.
Cool.
And
So it's YouTube Rocket Ship Squid, one word.
All right.
Please subscribe to
And
this
you're-
please
channel.
subscribe.
And you're the head of
and
that.
if you don't, I will kill you. Just kidding.
And you are the head of that production company, right? Yes.
Way to go.
Wonderful.
I know I don't have a mic, but I just spoke off camera to his dad. He will not be like Lonzo Ball's dad. So anybody out there, he will not be like Lonzo Ball's dad.
All right.
Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an
Wow.
honor.
We are
and
so
a
proud
pleasure.
of you.
Yes.
We are
Let's
so
give them a
proud.
round of applause.
Yes, indeed.
And Orion, we wish you continued success.
Right.
And we're going to follow your career because a lot of people are saying
Thank
that
you.
that
Thank
you may
you.
be the next Spike Lee. You ever heard that name?
Definitely not.
Well,
I'll be
Who's
disappointed.
that?
you may be the next Spike Lee. And just
Well, we're going to call you
continue,
Cecil B. DeYoung
just
right
continue-
now because you're something else.
just
Can I make one
continue your
shout out?
success.
Mom wants to
Oh,
make
sure.
one more.
I just really want to shout out
Thank
his
you.
kindergarten teacher, Karen Dougherty at Central Park East 2. She was very encouraging to him, and
It's
she allowed
Dorothy.
Dorothy. Sorry,
Dorothy.
Let's hear it for the
That's a director.
teachers.
to bring his
That's
books
a
to
director.
school and share it with the class, and I'm just very thankful.
That's
to
a
that.
director for you. You got the talent. You like
got
to
the
correct
talent.
folks, and you know how to do it.
And just make sure you pay mom a good salary, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
All right,
our
let-
viewers definitely love him. There's nothing but great comments about you. They're saying they love your spirit, that you're too cute, and look at all those heart emojis for
Yeah.
you.
What else
All
are
right,
they
ladies
saying?
and
Very quickly,
gentlemen.
what else are they saying?
Sorry.
What else are they saying?
They're just telling him to continue with it, and kudos to the parents and continue to support.
Well,
I think
Orion, we
comedy
want to
might
say,
also be in his future.
Orion, we want to
Yeah.
say
Acting.
that we,
An actor.
Acting.
Orion, we want
on your
to,
way.
Orion,
Mom wants to say.
sloppy, I want to slap myself.
I just wanted to say that recently he was making funny comments during class, and he made a pact with the teacher that he would go home and write himself a book of jokes, and he could share
this
at
thing
joke
even
time.
on?
So Orion is at joke number 70 right now, and they're quite witty.
Oh, you're
Wow.
going to do stand-up, huh?
What grade is he in?
He's in.
Second.
Second grade.
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
Orion, the stand-up comic.
Please,
Monty,
please
from-
send his films, his joke books
Hashtag
to
number one
everybody.
YouTuber.
Danny Glover, Sam Jackson, you know,
Can you do that,
people who
Achille?
can help him.
Killy,
Oprah,
Killy,
let him meet Oprah, please.
can you do that for him?
Oprah.
I would love to. I would love to. I would love to.
Because
He
he would be great on Oprah's show. You know,
What
Oprah,
show's
Oprah,
Oprah at?
I said, who the heck is
who the heck is
Oprah?
Don't say that yet. Don't say that.
Way to go, kid.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Orion. Yes, let's give him a round of applause. Come on,
Ryan Razak. Way to go, my brother.
boy.
All right, you stay
That was
strong
your
now.
name. That was your name.
He was giving us the wind-up sign
The wrap up.
on the other side of the
Yeah,
screen over
he
there.
was
Well,
like,
he's a producer and
speed it up.
director.
I'm telling you, speed it up, guys. Let's go. I gotta go someplace.
Any final thoughts? Final words
Do you want to say anything to anybody?
to the audience? Now, there's thousands of people that are watching you.
Cameron, tell them what you think.
I want Obama back.
Out of the mouth of babes, ladies and gentlemen.
I love it.
Obama, baby.
Well said.
We should have had you on the first
In the
segment.
program right there.
BBS,
It's a perfect
this has
way
been
to
a good
end.
segment, a
Anyway,
good
that's
show. And we want to thank our audience out there.
Yep,
Right?
that's always saying, party. Keep a good thought, okay?
Yes, sir. And thank you all of you for joining us. And thank all of you for meeting the one and only Orion. Yes,
Open
indeed.
line.
Peace.
Second hour. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Say bye, Ryan.
Bye. I mean, whatever.
Whatever.
Bye. I can hear ear in the creepy night. Wahaha. By Orion. I can hear ear was very scared. He could hear creepy things. He could hear slimy things. He could hear weird things. Grumble, grumble. He could hear knocking sounds. I can hear ear call for his mom again and again.
Oh, dear little ear.
But then he realized it was just Dad going to the fridge.
Goop, 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 goop.
The end. Wahahaha. The cute little toes go to the moon by Orion. Cute little toes were in the science lab and they were bored with the snacks. But then toe number 1 had an idea. Let's build a rocket. Toe number 1 was supervising the team. They were working hard. The kids from Toe Academy came on the school bus and drove over. Woo, woo! They screamed. The cute little toes boarded the rocket and prepared for launch, but then sneaky number 7 pitched the ride. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off! Granny was watching the rocket launch while she was sipping pina colada. Oh my! They landed on the moon and the smell of toe cheese made them hungry.
Hot dogs, get your hot dogs.
Ho ho ho! Sneaky number 7 stole a sack full of hot dogs. Hey everybody, it's the cute little toes on the moon. Maybe they can help us. Toe number 7 was chowing down on his feast, but then 1 in 4 lifted the Mega Blaster and skaboom! Toe Jam went everywhere. And then they all celebrate with hot dogs. The end. We're the toe aliens. We come to take your bagels. And coming up next, you get to choose your underpants. Oh, my favorite show. The cute little toes go to the market by Orion. One day, a granny went to the market to get a pineapple, but on her way to the subway, a bandit came out and snatched her pineapple. She was sad. But then, hey everybody, it's the cute little toes. Maybe they can help us. Toe number 4 got with the toe jam and he fell to the ground. Ah, I'm falling! Help! Pow! The pineapple fell right into Granny's basket. They had a big party and made pina coladas. The end. Rocket Ship Squid TM Productions. The cute little toes have roast beef by Orion. The cute little toes went to the deli to get some roast beef sandwiches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cute little toes were walking to the 6th train 103rd Street station. They sat down and enjoyed the roast beef sandwiches. Toe number 6 got on and said, "Give me your roast beef." Toe number 3 said, "Toe number 6, my evil cousin." And he pulled out his ketchup blaster. Toe number 6 threw a roast beef at toe number 3's face. But then, hey everybody, it's the cute little toes. Maybe they can help us. Roast beef flew everywhere until MTA said, I'm telling the cops. Granny said, yeah, right. Toll number 6 got off the train and called it a truce. The cute little toll sat down and enjoyed the roast beef. The end. Toll number 1 had a toll cheese blaster. Toll number 2 had a shoe. Toll number 3 had a net. But toll number 4 got in with the toll jam, and toll number 5 has a sock. The cute little toads went wee, wee, wee all the way to the lab. Bye, Orion! Cute little toads were at the cafe. Toad number 5 was going to press the Wi-Fi button because all the Wi-Fi went out. No, it's broken, but it was too late. Wi-Fi is broken. But then it was too late. The cute little toad shrunk down. We better get to the lab, they said. And they were running. Wee, all the way to the lab. But then Granny dropped a hat. They reached the lab and they went inside. Well, toad scientists, we're glad to see you. And they got splashed with pink potion. Boom. But what about Granny's hat? They said. But then, hey everybody, the cute little toads, maybe they can help us. Toll number 4 came with a special delivery. Thank you, dear, she said. Then they all celebrated with free coffee. Toll number 4 was drinking like a beast. The end. Once you get coffee, you might know you dropped your hat or you shrink or something else. It's something like that.